Welcome back to Project 613. Today we learn the Torah's law of Edim Zomamin. This means witnesses whose testimony has been disqualified by the court after the court has determined that they were lying. And how does the court know that they were lying? Because after they testified, after they gave their testimony, let's say they came to court and testified that they witnessed a murder take place at a certain time and at a certain place, a few moments later, a second set of witnesses came in and said that first set were lying. How do we know that they were lying? Because at the very time that they claimed to have witnessed the murder take place, they were with us at a different location. So there's no way in the world that they could have witnessed that event take place. And the Torah says that in such a case, and that is a mitzvah that we learned today, that we shall do to these witnesses exactly what they intended to do to the defendant. So if as a result of their testimony, the defendant would have had a financial loss, then the witnesses have to pay. If as a result of their testimony, the defendant would have received lashes from the court, the witnesses received the lashes. And if as a result of the testimony, the defendant would have been put to death, then the witnesses are put to death. Because we do to them exactly as they plotted, exactly as they planned to do to their brother. That is what the verse says. You should do to them as they planned to do to their brother. And that is what the word zomem means. Edim zomem, those who planned, they plotted. And that is exactly what's done to them. So the typical case, the scenario that the Talmud talks about is, let's say two witnesses show up to court and testify that a murder took place in London on Monday at 3 p.m. And we already know that the Beit Din only accept testimony if the witnesses give the exact time, the exact location. So they would have had to say the exact time and place. And they did. And they were cross-examined, and the Beit Din believed them. The testimony seemed to be 100% correct. And the Beit Din was about to issue the death penalty, was about to carry out the verdict, which in this case would have been the death penalty. We have a murderer over here. And just before the Beit Din manages to carry out the verdict, a second set of witnesses come in and say, perhaps a murder took place at that time, and perhaps this individual who you claim to have been the murderer was indeed the murderer. We don't know. Perhaps yes, perhaps no. One thing we do know is that these witnesses are lying, because at the very time that they claim to have witnessed this murder take place in London, they happen to be with us in Paris, also on Monday at 3 p.m. So there's no way in the world that they would have witnessed this event take place in London, and therefore they are lying when they claim to have seen this event with their own eyes. And this is when the Torah says that the first set of witnesses are punished with whatever they wish to inflict on the defendant. That is done to them. And this is only done so long as the defendant wasn't yet punished. If the defendant was already if the defendant was already put to death by the Beit Din, then the witnesses will not be put to death as a punishment. But if they are caught before the defendant receives his punishment, then they receive the punishment in his place. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.